Okay, you're on
Okay.
call.
Okay. Today is June 12th in the year of 2023, and we're here to. This is a land use hearing on the following project: 175-1000-BEZ111 3400 Baychester Avenue. Request of extension of a variance waiver of the rules of practice and of time of extension of time from city planning resolution N230118 ZRY carbon neutrality. But the spokesman representing this location is here. He may start to speak.
Hello, Mr. Stricker. My name is Eric Palatnik. Thank you for introducing me. And I'd like to thank the entire board for being here tonight. And it was very nice to see camaraderie amongst you at the introduction. It was very enjoyable. Yeah, I've known him for many years, and it was nice to see you all so supportive of one another. So my name is Eric Palatnik, and if it's okay with you, I'd like to share the screen. I am representing, see if I did this correct. There you go. So I'm representing what used to be probably a Lukoil, and before that it was probably Getty. It's within your district. It's the gas station. It's been operating for decades under a variance from the Board of Standards and Appeals, and I'm here to renew it. I'm here to also be empathetic to the history of the property. Global has recently taken control of the property and has made efforts to clean it up and fix it up, and they're not done. So I want to start off there. I know you've had a history with the property. I know it has not been well kept through the years. I know that it's shown the operators in the past or the owners have shown much disrespect to your community. And I'm here to let you know that Global, which is a large automotive gas company with strong desire to keep the site clean, is here, and I am here to answer any questions you have about it and help make any improvements that you may see going ahead on the property that would bring it even, make it even a better addition to your community. So the gas station has been operating, as I mentioned a moment ago, for 50 somewhat years under the BSA, Board of Standards and Appeals. That last approval expired in March of 2021. As I said, Global just recently took control of the property. You could see the grand opening sign right up there. And for those of you who are familiar with the property, you've probably noticed that it's been an improvement to the property as far as its condition goes and ownership. We're here now to extend that term. And that's why I'm here tonight to ask for your approval to extend the term of the previously issued variance for this automotive service station. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. I could give you a little bit more of information for you. The tires have all been removed from the property, as you could see. The pumps and the tanks have been replaced, and the pumps are all new. The site has been repaved, and you can see there's a new canopy has been put up on it. There's been effort made to clean up and ensure that the fencing and the retaining wall, which in years past have always been an issue, are in good shape. And we are making efforts shortly to correct the sidewalk condition that you see there next to the black car coming in. You could see that we've improved the conditions around the crosswalk there, and they're continuing to improve the conditions. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, and I thank you very much for giving me the time to explain what's going on. Eric Palatnik.
Okay, I have a couple of questions for you. Does Global have any other properties in the Bronx?
Yes, I don't have the whole list of them around, but there's they bought out the portfolio of the old Getty sites, which were then purchased by Lukoil.
Right.
None of those sites historically have not really been the best looking sites in the city. Global has a desire to change that on the sites that they've acquired. And as I said, they'll be fixing them up more and more and more.
And they will be using their own name, Global?
Yes, Global is their brand, correct. And it's also happens to be their
Okay. Because I haven't seen it around too much. That's why I asked you.
Yeah, it's not around on the East Coast so much. They are actually they're a rather large distributor of petroleum product on the wholesale side. It's just within the past decade or so that they've started to get into the retail market. And when the portfolio came up for sale from Lukoil and Getty, which always were struggling sites, they saw that as a good opportunity to get into the New York market. And and take over a bunch of sites. So if you'd like later, I could talk to you more and I could send over a list of all their sites in the Bronx so you could start to see. But they have quite a few.
If you could send that to the board, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I won't be around tomorrow. I have something to take care of, but I'll send it over to you on Wednesday.
Okay. The other question, are they going to do any automotive repairs there?
Yes, they're maintaining. There's automotive repairs on the property right now. That's not changing. It's the same mechanic that's been there for years and years and years. He's open 8:30 to 6 Monday through Friday, 9 to 2 on Saturday, and he's closed on Sunday.
And do they have a contract with Volkswagen on Boston Road to repair their vehicles?
I don't know if they do or they don't. I could find out though.
I would be curious. I would be curious on that because I believe the previous owner did have a contract with them.
I will find out.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the questions. How long do you want the variance for, by the way?
We're requesting to the term that was there before, which is 10 years.
10 years? Okay. I'm through with my questions. Does anybody on my committee have a question?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions, if that's okay.
Oh, go ahead, Luke.
Hey, thanks so much. So one question I have is this facility receives shipments of petroleum products on a regular basis. Is that right?
I'm sure they do. I'm not witness to them, but they must.
And when these petroleum shipments come in, how are they delivered?
I mean, again, I'm speculating, but I'd imagine as most are through an 18-wheeler.
Okay, 18-wheeler, probably 18-wheeler is probably at least, 40 feet long, right? It's a pretty big
Oh,
vehicle,
yeah,
right?
gigantic. Yeah, they're very big.
Right. So one thing we know, just not to uh, show people my opinions too much, but one thing we know, as anybody crossing the street or riding a bike in the neighborhood will attest to, riding next to these very large tractor trailers pulling petroleum products, highly flammable, I might add, is pretty dangerous. Do you know how many shipments you'd say per week comes in?
I don't have any idea, but of course, I share your concern. As a matter of fact, we make it a point whenever we're on the highway driving next to them in a car, nevertheless on a bicycle, to stay as far away as we possibly can. So I can understand your concern. I don't know how many shipments they get.
So is it like, would you say, 5 per week, less than that,
I can't tell you that. I could speak to them though, and I could report back and let you know. I could tell you exactly.
Okay, do you have
Well,
a
that would
ballpark?
depend on how many gallons he sells.
Right. Okay, so we're assuming, more than one uh probably per week, right? Is that
No, I don't think I could assume anything. I have no idea what their volume is.
okay,
It
so an
depends on volume.
I don't know how much
right.
a week. So it could be what you just said, or it could be more frequent, or it could be less frequent. So I don't know the answer.
Great. And these petroleum products, do they vary? Are they all, they different types of petroleum products? Can you talk about what is being sold at this facility?
Not much more than what I think we all know to come to utilize to travel around in any gas-powered vehicle or anything like that. That's what's being sold there. I could try and zoom in here and give you the octane levels if that's what you're going for.
Right.
But gasoline, just like every other gas station uh, around. There's nothing, no other automotive fuel that's being sold there. There's regular and there's diesel. Those are the two.
Okay, so regular and diesel, two options. Got it. Um, One thing that I'd like to bring up is that, this is very close in proximity to a new community garden that we've got off Boston Road. Ujama Garden. You know, one concern I have is people riding a bike next to an operation that regularly has, massive, as you say, 18-wheelers hauling flammable diesel gas and regular gas here. Another reason why, renewing this type of operation for another 10 years could be a concern is if you look actually right to the left right here, can you scroll a little bit to the left? Keep on going, keep on going. Okay, so this is right across the street from the entrance to the 5 train. And as we know, eviction rates in our district are rising. We've got a lot of people struggling with housing insecurity. And one thing that we've heard is that transit-oriented development, where you can have accessible transportation, really close to transit, is really important. This site is within 1 block, of an entrance to the train, the 5 train. And I think we should be approaching this rather than continuing a fossil fuel burning um, process, which we know damages, our environment, our groundwater, risks injury to people walking on the sidewalk, riding a bike to the community garden in the area, trying to get to the train. I think we should be thinking about this as an opportunity for affordable housing. This is a perfect location right across the street from the entrance through train. If people are working in the South Bronx or anywhere else, you can jump on the train right here. This is a perfect location for housing. Another thing that I'd like to bring up is that we saw late last month a terrible fire where a truck underneath the 5 train caught fire with a bunch of flammable materials and was scorching the neighborhood right underneath this 5 train, delaying 5 train service. I think that if we continue to operate gas stations, especially with owners who we know are not good community actors, we can see continuations of fires. We can see continuation of
Correct.
traffic. Just 1 second, just 1 second, sir.
Sure, of course.
We can see continuation of traffic incidents, of pollution that burning this gas causes, and a lack of funding and investing in opportunities where we can create affordable housing. And I think we can really take this as an opportunity to use this as something that the community can better use. And I know people need to fill up their cars with gas, but people need homes, and I think that outweighs everything. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for your comment. They're very intelligent. I just like to correct one statement. The part about the owners not being responsible owners, I was referring to previous ownership entities that might have used the property with a lot of tire storage, but the current ownership has cleaned it up quite a bit, and they're very responsible stewards of the property.
And I also would say that the gas station's been there for over 50 years. And we do need affordable houses, but I wouldn't want to put somebody out of business to build affordable housing on a property that's been going on for over 50 years. That's my personal opinion. Also, Baychester Avenue happens to be a truck route, although it used to be New York 164, but was the map as a state roadway, so the state wouldn't have to maintain it and push it onto the city. But that is an authorized truck route from the thruway into the communities. And it has 18-wheelers going through there every day of the week, whether it's gas or fuel trucks or whatever, household goods, KFC, chicken, whatever it is, they come through that street because it's an exit off the New England Thruway. So trying to get rid of trucks on that roadway is not going to happen because it's one of the authorized routes that the city provides for long-haul trucks. That's just to answer your concern, Luke.
I still think we can, and I understand we've got other people who have raised their hand. I still think we can use this as an opportunity to reduce the amount of tractor trailers on our streets, to increase the amount of affordable housing. And, these gas stations often really pollute the groundwater because they pour the gas into underground cisterns that sometimes leak. They're not checked regularly. So I think we can do something else here for 10 years.
The rep just stated they put all new tanks and pumps in, so those tanks should not leak. They are brand new, which is mandated by the state, by the way, that all the tanks in the state of New York had to be replaced by more environmentally friendly tanks, and that was a mandate. And if you went to different gas stations over the last 5 years, you'll see they'd be closed while they're having their tanks replaced and all polluted soil removed.
That's correct.
Thank you. So, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, Luke. I love affordable housing, but I don't want to put a business out of business. And what you're talking about getting less tractor trailers. You know what it is? If he gets 3 deliveries a week, that's only 3 trucks a week. So, I mean, whether it's 190 trucks or 193 trucks, it's really no difference. Excuse me?
I can't hear you.
Beatrice, can you call anybody had their hand raised?
Sure. Hold on one sec. Okay, so right now we have Alfredo. Alfredo?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
How are you guys? I'm driving, so excuse me. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chair, everyone on the committee board. Mr. Palachnik, how are you? Long time don't see. Hope everything is good. So just to reiterate what we're trying to do here. So this is a board case, right? So it's
Correct.
Hold on, Mr. Palachnik, I got you. This is a board of standards and appeals case, which means that whomever operated this location had to go to the board to get a special permit. The board, which consists of X amount of commissioners, approved this years ago, over 40, 50 years. Every 10 years, per code and zoning, you have to renew a BSA case at the board, and also you have to renew your CFO in the building department. And the reason why I say that, I do this all the time, and I'm doing one right now. So it's not that they're coming here for something out of the ordinary or something different. This is something that every 10 years they're going to come the same way every gas station in our district or service station that's not permitted as of right is going to come to our committee and our board to ask for an extension, which we always grant, except one, I think, which was the gas station on 233rd and Eastchester, but that's for a different reason. I mean, 233rd and Basechester, but that was for something different. So I just want everybody else on the call to also know that this is not something that Mr. Palachnik is asking for out the ordinary. This is something that is procedure. And yes, we need to do it and rezoning Boston. There's a lot of properties on Boston Road that want to go from commercial to residential. I think we should have a big conversation with rezoning Boston Road, and we could put a lot of beautiful buildings on Boston Road. I have a lot of clients that have properties that want to convert from commercial to residential, and I think that's the place to put it at. Global, they put a lot of money into this location. It's been there for a long time. It's actually one of the cheapest gas stations actually in the Northeast Bronx, to be honest with you. And I just want to just put that out there like that. Everybody else on the call could also hear what exactly it is that we're trying to do. Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you.
I don't see any of the hands
Sorry.
raised.
Also, sorry. I checked DOB. They're good to go. There's 4 violations, but they're not no safety violations, so they're good to go.
Okay, Carl, we have Luke's hand raised. Luke?
You know,
For Mr. Palatnik, what is the underlying zoning here? You're on mute, by the way.
the oldest Zoom trick in the book. R4.
And have you ever thought about doing something aside from a gas station here? You know, out of everything, seems like a desirable location for residential development. Have you ever considered that?
Let me explain. No, we have
Well,
not.
first of all, let me answer the question for you. First of all, he's representing the global oil company, so he has nothing to decide what goes up on that property. He's only representing them for their 10-year extension. So he has no idea what should be there, 2-family houses, 14-story buildings, or whatever.
Okay. Another question I have as it relates to gas station operation, we see, as we'll talk more about tonight, a move, in the citywide, in the statewide, nationally towards electric. This operation, it seems like it's only going to be for gas. Do you have any plans to improve the property with electric vehicle charging at this time?
Not at this location.
Okay. So,
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
There are no other hands raised, Carl.
Actually,
All right.
Beatrice,
Do we hear? Do I hear somebody?
John?
yes, I'm actually at another meeting also, and I'm on my phone. But this company has been a good citizen for a long time in the neighborhood. So I don't think we should hold it against them. They've not broken the laws like a lot of the other gas stations, like harboring cars and doing stuff. And actually, if we really look at it, there's an industrial area right to the right of the gas station, right behind, I guess, the train station. So there is a zone that is light industry right behind it.
yeah, I just think, we are suffering as a nation, as a globe. We saw unprecedented fires that polluted our air, and
Yeah,
we
but
are,
that wasn't an environmental problem.
well, it's exacerbated, right? Because it we get a drier climate, the more pollution we cause because of all of that carbon dioxide is
I will discuss why
warming.
we had wildfires offline. I don't want to get into
Yes,
it
yes,
today,
guys.
but it was mandated by the government, and that's why they had wildfires, because they're not permitted to do what they used to be able to do to prevent them.
Can we proceed,
Okay.
guys?
I'm just
Yeah.
saying that is there anything instead of signing for 10 years, can we do less than that?
The board now,
Or
look, the board does not grant that. The board only does 10-year extensions. Only BSA cases only get 10-year extensions. That's the only way BSA operates. Otherwise, they would have asked for 2 year, 5 years. They don't do that. They do a 10-year
It's
because
automatically 10 years. Yeah,
they only do
you're
10
right.
years. They only grants 10-year extensions. I wish they did less, but they don't. They only do 10-year extensions.
yeah, I just,
And
I'm saying for everybody here that I'm not comfortable approving a 10-year extension when the
well,
site
then vote
is
against it.
okay. Okay, I'm just
Thank you.
hoping to
That's your,
convince anybody else to
well,
see where I'm
well,
coming from.
I think trying to screw a businessman to put up other stuff is wrong, period. Definitely
I'm not,
wrong.
I'm not trying to screw anybody. I just think that we
Well,
have a really interesting
Guys,
opportunity
come on.
here to build housing or to do anything.
Beatrice, anybody else?
No, Carl. No one else's hands are raised.
Okay, being no other questions from any member of the board, the land use board, I close this meeting. And the time is 7:31, I believe. So the meeting, I close this meeting and we'll take a vote on it. All right? Are we ready to take a vote?
Sorry, you closed the agenda item, not the meeting, right?
No, the agenda
Okay.
item. Thank
Thanks,
you, Luke.
sorry.
So can we take a vote on this agenda item, please?
I make a motion that we
Okay,
accept,
and
that I make a motion that we accept Mr. Palaknik's request for a BSA extension of 10 years for 3400 Bay
and
Chester.
I will,
And I,
anybody,
and I,
any seconds?
Second by
I
John Isaac.
second Keisha Martin.
Okay, Keisha. Thank you, Keisha. All right, so let's take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay, Luke is opposed.
All right, so make sure that it's noted that Luke opposed the application.
Okay.
Okay, I want to thank you for appearing tonight. And the letter will go out to the Standards and Appeal to affirm your request for a 10-year extension.
Thank you. And Luke, good luck.
Good seeing you, buddy. Take care.
Take care, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Figueroa. Everybody. Bye, Beatrice.
Okay. We have another item on the agenda.
Yes.
What is
The
it,
zero
EIV?
carbon. Wait, Nate, are you still with us? From City Planning?
Yes, I'm here.
I have one question for you, Nate. Did you read the Paris Accord yet?
I have not had a chance yet. I
Before
will.
you go, I would ask you to read the Paris Accord, okay? But anyway, go ahead with your presentation. I've already heard it, so it's okay.
Right. Thank you, Carl. And so I know some of you have already heard this presentation at the Environmental Committee meeting. So I'll try to give you the really brief version. Let me share my screen. So just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Nate Heffron, and I'm the Senior Borough Planner at the Department of City Planning in the Bronx office. And I'm your new Community Board Liaison for CB12. So this is my first Land Use Committee meeting. I hope to just at least sit in on any future ones, but I'm actually here before you with a really important item today. So that's our first of 3 zoning text amendments called City of Carbon Neutrality. So this is a really important text amendment for thinking about how our buildings impact our environment and trying to rethink of ways that our zoning can actually help instead of hinder our ability to make our buildings more environmentally friendly. So, I want to try to make this as quick as possible. So for the folks who've already seen this presentation, but this is the first of 3 citywide zoning text amendments. So this applies to all the zoning across the entire city, and it was referred out for public review to all the community boards across the city, all 59, all borough boards, and all borough presidents as well. So every community board in the city is going to be seeing this presentation. It was referred out symbolically on Earth Day this year. So we're kind of mimicking the typical public review process for sort of a zoning change and giving community boards 60 days to hear the recommendations and to be able to weigh in on it. So this is the first one of 3 of the mayor's top proposals for to help fix our zoning. The second will be zoning for economic opportunity. So there's actually a hearing tomorrow night, just to intro that one. So I can share a little bit more about that one later. But that will be referred out for public review coming in the fall. And then there's going to be zoning for housing opportunity as well. That'll come out later next year. So I'll be back to present those for you later. So again, like this is a really timely and urgent issue, as we've seen last week with the really poor air quality in the city, the wildfires that are going on, things that we've never seen before. We are in a climate emergency, and and Carl, you mentioned that the Paris Climate Accord that New York City had signed on and agreed, and many and most other nations on Earth have signed on to agree to limit our greenhouse gas emissions. But the problem with our building stock is that our buildings are actually one of the biggest contributors to our carbon emissions, which are helping to drive this climate change and put us into this climate crisis that we're in now. So what we need to do is really rethink the way that our buildings, how they use energy and how efficient they are. And the zoning of the city actually, in many instances, prevents people from being able to actually retrofit their buildings to be more efficient and to clean up the energy grid. So that's what we're trying to do here today. And we're building upon work that's already been done in the past. There's been the Zone Green Initiative in 2012. And from there, we're building upon, many past plans and many ideas, and we're trying to go even further this time by building upon this past work that's been done so that we can really, transform the way that our buildings function. And this is not the beginning of the engagement process. We've been in touch with many subject matter experts. We've been in touch with climate activists, scientists, all the experts who, and many architects and engineers as well, to really get feedback and to really get tailor these proposals to a point where we think that they'll be the most effective. So we also had some public info sessions. Like I said, there's one public info session for the next zoning text amendment that'll be tomorrow. So we did that for this text amendment back in October and March, and then it was referred out in April. And then towards the end, I'll get into the next steps for after this process. So what we learned from speaking to a lot of these experts and engaging with other, and folks in the city and beyond on what are some of the best practices and what are some of the barriers that we're facing to really improve our buildings efficiencies, is that there's a lot of ways that our zoning impacts the way that our buildings can really embrace a lot of these new technologies. Our zoning resolution was written in 1961, and many of these new technologies, of course, didn't exist back then. So our zoning text has to keep up with that so that it can allow for these new technologies so that they can be put in place. So the proposal is broken down into 4 major goals. And I know this is a lot of information to take in here, but I shared this with the community board already, but I'm happy to share it again. If anybody would like to take a look at these proposals individually or dive into them more deeply, I'm more than happy to take any questions on them. But again, I wanted to give you a really quick overview of the proposals. There's 17 in total across 4 different goals. So the first goal is to decarbonize our energy grid. And by doing that, we'll look at ways to retrofit our buildings and try to strive for certain mandates that are requiring us to attain 100% renewable energy into our building stock and to help our buildings accommodate that. So the first of these proposals is to take a look at our rooftop zoning allowances for solar, and to ensure that there isn't anything holding us back from our solar goals. So the zoning right now essentially says that only 25% of a rooftop could be covered with solar panels. We want to change that so that 100% of the rooftop can be covered. The second would be to take a similar approach for our 8,000 acres of open parking areas to ensure that that zoning allows for these solar canopies over open parking lots. Right now, it's really difficult to install one of these fixtures. There's not many examples that you can see across the city, but we want to make it easier so that you can see more of these. The third is if we want to generate clean energy for utility customers elsewhere in your neighborhood, we want to change the zoning to allow for the solar energy that's captured on one rooftop to be shared with other buildings in the neighborhood. Right now, that's under the zoning, it's currently not allowed, but we want to change it so that that energy and that electricity that's captured can be distributed throughout the neighborhood in places where it's needed. And fourth, So to also do this, we will need to ensure that safe FDNY and DOB reviewed energy storage facilities are allowed where they're needed most. And it's currently these energy storage devices. You can think of them as like large batteries, but they're really they're safe. They're cleared by FDNY and DOB, but they're only allowed in certain parts of the city. So we want to make them allowed in more parts of the city so that they can be where they're needed most. And then finally, onshore wind faces strict limits in today's zoning. So we want to allow for greater heights where they're appropriate to allow for more onshore wind as well. So the second goal is to decarbonize our building stock. So there are over 1 million buildings in New York City, and we want to achieve one of the city's goals of 80 by 50, which is to reduce our emissions by 80% by 2050. And in order to do that, we can't just tear down every building and build new ones. We'd have to use the buildings that we currently have. And so we'll need to be thinking about higher efficiency electric systems. And we also are keeping in mind Local Law 97, which is really important to note here, is a law that was passed in 2019 under the NYC Climate Mobilization Act, which essentially says that any building over 25,000 square feet, any large building, has to make efforts to bring down it, become more efficient and sort of like bring down its carbon footprint. And buildings will start to be fined, and those fines will increase year after year if the building doesn't become compliant. So we don't want to put building owners between a rock and a hard place and tell them that you have to become more efficient, but also at the same time the city zoning says you can't do what you need to do to become more efficient. So that's what we're hoping to resolve here. And then also we want to make new buildings able to comply with another local law, Local Law 154, which essentially says that all new buildings have to be built without fossil fuel systems, period. So no more gas or oil in any new construction. So to do that, we have our next set of goals. So our proposals. So the first, we want zoning to accommodate the increasing need for outdoor equipment, such as heat pumps. These are devices that can help cool buildings, but they can't be located within the building. They have to be located on, say, like a rooftop or outside. And we want to make sure that the zoning, that if someone wants to install one of these on their building, that the zoning doesn't get in their way and tell them that they can't install it because they exceed height limits or anything like that. So we want to clean up those issues there. Second, we need zoning to ensure that when someone is trying to add thicker insulation or like reclad their building, sort of like changing their facades and make them more efficient to prevent air from getting in and out of the building, that they don't run into zoning obstacles when they do that. So that way buildings can be kept cool in the summer and hot in the winter. And then thirdly, we need to update an existing initiative that came off of the Zone Green initiative that was done in 2012 on the wall thickness deduction, which gives a small amount of floor area for sort of buildings that are built more efficient than what the current code allows. And then to note here, there's always a lot of questions and very, very important questions about getting funding for building owners who want to take on some of these projects. So NYC Accelerator from the Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice is actually a really great hub to look into and can connect you with the existing city, state, and federal resources. NYSERDA at the state level is also a great resource to look into the potential funding. So unfortunately, with this zoning text amendment, there won't be any funding attached with it, but there are resources out there that you can connect with and hopefully be able to get some of these projects underway. So for the third goal, we want to also decarbonize our vehicles that we're driving. So there are over 2 million registered vehicles in New York City, and less than 1% of them are electric. And we are seeing that there are new policies at the state level that say by 2035 that like internal combustion engines, the gas powered engines are no longer going to be able to be sold in New York State. So that demand is also going to shift more towards electric vehicles. And we want to create spaces to be able to charge those vehicles. And right now there are certain zoning barriers that prevent us from embracing that. So that's what allowed the next section of goals is trying to achieve. So the first would allow for commercial charging facilities in all commercial and manufacturing districts in the city. Right now, they're only allowed in about half of the commercial districts in New York City. So this would allow them in all of them to be able to expand the footprint of electric vehicle chargers. Second, we would allow building owners to designate a portion of their existing parking spaces to be offered up as shareable electric vehicle charging spaces. This is already sort of in place with those sort of like ride sharing companies, those sort of car sharing companies. They have the ability to have these shared spaces. So we wanted to create kind of mirror that for electric vehicles. Third, we would allow for more flexible use of parking lots, public garages, and commercial accessory parking facilities by allowing car rental, car sharing, commercial vehicle storage, and public electric vehicle charging within these facilities as well. And the fourth proposal would be to expand certain special rules that only apply in Manhattan for these automated parking stackers. So we're already thinking about the efficiency of parking and having parking take up less space. These automated parking stacker machines, they only are allowed in Manhattan currently. This would expand them to be allowed citywide. And then additionally, we also want to think of bicycle parking as well. So we can add, we're proposing rule changes for the storage and charging of electric bikes and other small electric vehicles as well. And then the last goal is that we want to decarbonize our waste streams because our stormwater runoff tends to contribute a lot to our carbon footprint. The more stormwater runoff we have, the more it's diverted to these very large energy intensive waste treatment plants. And also our zoning resolution doesn't mention anything about composting. So we wanted to also address that as well as that we can take advantage of the ability to compost and have that taken into account to help us become more efficient as well. So the first proposal we have here is to better allow for more porous paving on sites, and we can clarify the language to ensure that more permeable paving is allowed on properties. So that's essentially pavement that allows rainwater and storm water to seep right down into the ground instead of being diverted to storm drains or ponding and flooding. So it'd be more helpful for that. We have a proposal to update rules for our street tree requirements because with new developments, there's requirements for street trees. This would make those street tree requirements a little bit more flexible so that a new development can either combine tree pits or create rain gardens, as an alternative to just a traditional street tree. And then we would add new regulations that can clarify when composting and recycling are allowed, because this is what I mentioned out. Our zoning resolution doesn't even acknowledge composting. So we wanted to clarify that definition so that it can be designated in certain areas in the city. And then lastly, we have a proposal to simplify the process of adding rooftop greenhouses and allowing them as of right in certain districts. So again, and that's a lot of information to take in, and I know it's I know there's a lot of details here, and I'm happy to take any questions on any of these individual proposals. But again, I'd like to just reiterate that these are some really important proposals for what we're facing right now with the climate crisis, and a lot of these this is going to require an all hands on deck approach to get us out of this crisis. So this is what the city is doing now to at least make sure that our buildings are not standing in the way of these goals. So going back to the timeline for this, so we're in that window of a 60-day review where this, again, has been referred out to all the community boards in the city and the borough boards and borough presidents as well. So there'll be a public hearing on July 26th, and the City Planning Commission will vote on September 13th. And then we expect the City Council to vote sometime in the fall, and for this to be passed and brought into law. So with that, I thank you for having me again tonight, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Yeah, Beatrice, would you call the questions, please?
Sure. You don't have anything in the chat right now, Carl.
I don't. What about from the?
You have a
from
hand up. Luke has his hand raised.
naturally? Go ahead.
Thanks, and thanks so much for this presentation. Can you clarify whether these are, I live in a building, we don't have a solar panel. I would love to have a solar panel or be able to do that on the roof, but some people in my building might not want that immediately. Can you clarify whether these are required things that the zoning is going to force everyone to make these changes, or are these optional? Or let's say, am I going to be forced to put a green roof on my roof?
Actually, that's a very good question. Thank you. That's so there's an important distinction that this doesn't this zoning text here won't mandate the installation of like solar panels on roofs. However, through local law 97, that's one enforcement measure that was created, that it doesn't require solar panels per se, but it requires buildings to become more efficient and including solar panels. So we didn't want that to be an obstacle, but this doesn't require buildings yet. There's no requirement, formal requirement for solar panels yet.
Any other questions?
Carla, you have your hand raised. You got the floor.
Yes, just one comment. Nate, I think we should remind everyone that here in the Bronx, curbside composting pickup will be reinstated in March 2024. I admit I have not watched the legislative rulings in the last few months. There was talk about making it mandatory or leaving it optional. So I don't know.
So it is mandatory.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go.
City Council passed the mandatory.
Okay, so that's one box we can tick. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Just one point. This is Luke. The point about composting, we're not talking about curbside. You're talking about like facilities that maybe want to change from being a manufacturing facility to a
No, a curbside pickup.
No, I'm talking about this zoning text.
Yes, I was actually going to say that after that last comment. It was that this will allow for the facilities to be able to store the compost once it's taken from the curb. So that's now that we've like required it citywide for composting, that that compost is obviously going to need somewhere to go, and we need to be able to designate spaces for it. But currently, the zoning, we don't have the language in the zoning to do it, and that's what we're hoping to change here.
Okay, thank you, Nate. Any other questions? Beatrice, you see anybody?
No one else.
All right, so now I'll make my statement. Everybody was concerned about the pollution we had from the wildfires in Canada. And the issue is we wouldn't have had wildfires like they were if the governments would stop intervening with maintaining the forests. The way that you avoid the major forest fires, both in this country and Canada, is clean up the brush around the trees, because the fire starts in the brush. Without the brush, there's no place for the fire to start except dead trees, which they also required not to be removed. The Alberta wildfires, a couple of folks on the reservation, because the wildfires were on a reservation of an Indian tribe in Alberta, and they were cleaning up the bush around the trees to eliminate the chance of wildfires, and the government came in and arrested them for disobeying the law not to remove the stuff around the bottom of the trees, the moss, the shrubbery and stuff like that. They also used to put in fire lines where if the fire does start, it doesn't cross that line. But this was caused by the government of Canada. And in the United States and California, they have the same rules. And that's why they have such terrible wildfires the last couple of years. 6 years ago, this rule went into effect. And as long as they refuse to let nature go its course and let them remove the brush around the trees, you wouldn't have these major wildfires. It won't eliminate them, but you wouldn't have the major wildfires that we went through the last couple of weeks. But the environmentalist is the one that told the government you can't let them clean up the brush around the tree because they might kill a bug. And you know something? What they do? They made people sick because of their lack of understanding what the environment's about. All they do is want to hug trees, but they killed the trees with these wildfires. And that's a fact. The forestry departments do not do any maintenance now to prevent forest fires, which they used to do. And that's why we have them the way they are today. Number two, I'm concerned about the funding for all these roof gardens and solar panels and all this other stuff that you. What happens if a landlord wants to put it in? He's not going to pay for it. If he can't get a loan, he's going to file with the Rent Stabilization Board a request to charge his tenants, the cost of installing this stuff. And we have enough problems with people finding places to live. Most people barely can afford the apartments they live in, and then they get hit with a one-time charge of, say, hundreds of dollars, which will put them in the street. You see homelessness now? If there's no funding from the government to put these roof gardens in and solar panels, which I'm not against, I want to let you know that, and pay for them, the people living in those buildings will suffer. And many of them will have to move because they won't be able to pay the rent that they will be given, the extra rent to cover the cost of the so-called improvement. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Have any questions, bitches?
None right now, Carl.
Okay, so let's call. What I will say, we'll close this part of the Land Use Committee meeting. So this is closed as of 8 o'clock. Thank you, Nate, for coming again. Sorry I have to beat you up every time you come, but
yeah, I'll read the Paris Climate Accord. I'll report back and let you know.
Okay, I would appreciate that, because that is a main cause of the fires. Even the one we had in Rockland along the CSX tracks, they used to clean the brush away from the tracks so no sparks would set it on fire, but they're forbidden to do that. So what happens? Train comes down, it sparks, and boom, it sets the wildfire on. So yeah, the cleaning of the brush around the trees and putting a fire line in the forest to keep it from jumping from one part to another would be grateful and helpful to prevent these wild fires. So be it. Thanks again, Nate, for your presentation.
Thanks, Nate. We'll be in contact.
Yes. What we were hoping to get was either a letter of support or against or with conditions. And if you'd like to vote on it as well, that would be helpful as we want to try to collect for those type of responses from every board as much as possible, in addition to your comments and feedback as well. If you want to bring it to the full board too, that's okay as well.
Okay. Thank you, Nate.
We'll send you the full board information.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, so we should take a vote on this, and I tell you right now, I'm dead set against this because I don't want to see people push out of their homes to provide a solar panel on their roof. Solar panels are good, but it supports the communist government of China. But you know that be it, because it seems that the present administration favors China over this country, and you know. I'll take a motion for the floor, either to not
Carl, you
approve.
have a question from Luke. Go ahead, Luke.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Luke.
So one thing that I think we might get lost, it's the forest for the trees, to use maybe one metaphor. And I think locally this has a really big implication. For people, you know, when they design a new building, they have options to this is options to create street trees in different configurations. So right now you're pretty limited. If somebody wants to do a different type of street tree configuration when they build a new building to provide more foliage and water capture for the street and neighborhood, this is a zoning text amendment that allows for that. I think there's a lot of real good gems here, and if we deny this, you know, we were talking about this with Carla at the environmental committee meeting, and there's a lot. We're kind of going through some of these interesting things, and I personally want to live in a city where if somebody like my neighbors want to put a wildflower butterfly garden on their roof, they should be allowed to. And I think this is what's really cool about this.
Yeah,
and
but
I would make a motion to approve this.
Well, I will tell you, Luke, that's their personal decision to put a roof garden on their roof. Who says they can't?
Well, zoning says they can't right now.
Well, the point is, as long as they want to pay for it, as long as they want to pay for it, and it's not going to affect them. But what happens, this zoning affects people who can't afford to pay to have it on the roof of a building that's 7 stories high, and they're all rental tenants, where the landlord will definitely go to the rent guide board and ask for relief from this, and he can put it up. It betters his building, but the poor people in there who can't pay for the additional cost are pushed out of their apartments, and they become part of the homeless problem.
So one thing that this legislation or this zoning does is make it easier to comply and cheaper to comply with local law 97, which requires people to meet emissions targets. And if they have to not only meet these emission target upgrades with new solar panels, new energy efficient heat pumps, and get a ULURP on top of that, that's going to translate into even additional costs for tenants. So it's either we let this happen, allow it to happen as of right, or charge
I don't see any money coming to these people. None whatsoever.
There's
no
infrastructure.
funding.
The thing that Joe Biden passed,
right. That's a big
IRA,
joke.
that's going to translate into the state. The state is currently creating a regulatory framework to disseminate all those funds so that people can apply for a grant or a low interest loan to install this. I know there are buildings that are going to do this.
Did you read it?
I've been I've been reading these zoning text amendments and stuff.
No, not the zoning text amendment, the law that His Highness in Washington passed.
You know, I don't think I've had enough conversation with different nonprofits,
Yeah, yeah.
exposure to this, that it makes a lot of sense, I think, to do this because
Mm.
people want to have a cleaner air to breathe. And
I
oh,
agree with you. But
Carla
don't
has her
tell
hand
me I
raised.
can't
Sorry.
have a gas stove or a microwave and I have to use electricity, which is going to triple my monthly bill. Natural gas is the cleanest burning fuel there is. And they're pushing it out. You can't have gas stoves, you can't have microwaves, you can't have this, you can't have that. What do we live in? In a communist country? We should be able to live the way we want to live.
Oh, you have another hand up, Carla?
Hi, I just wanted to ask who on this call can actually share their personal experience in terms of getting a solar panel quote. I did it, and it was so expensive, even with NYSERDA subsidies, I would never realize any kind of a savings in my lifetime. So the whole cost question, I support Carl's point on that if landlords start feeling pressured to put panels and roof gardens on their houses, somebody's going to pay for it, and it's probably not only the landlord. So, you know, in this time of extensive discussions about affordable housing, you know, I think that's a real issue. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Anybody else, Beatrice?
No other hands are up.
Okay, Luke made a motion that we approve it, so he needs to get a second in it. Hearing no second, I make a motion until they can provide funding and other stuff to keep people in their homes that we do not approve this. That's my motion. Any second to that?
Yes, Carla seconds.
Okay. Can we have, Beatrice, can you take a vote, please?
Let's see how many committee members you have. You have,
I have
Asked to
10.
call a vote by name.
yes.
Thanks.
All right, so Carl from your committee, there's Luke, Carla, Alfredo, right?
Yes, Alfredo.
Yeah, I mean, I'm back. I lost you guys for a minute. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know
Okay.
what y'all were talking about, but I'm here.
Do you have enough information, Alfredo, to take a vote?
I mean, I know Nate was speaking, but I mean, after that, my call got disconnected for now.
Okay,
So,
he presented at Carla's committee last month.
oh, okay, so it was the same stuff. Okay, yeah, all right.
Yes. Carl, I'm gonna have to see who else is on your committee. Hold on one sec.
Keisha Martin.
Yeah, Keisha Martin,
You have Keisha.
So Keisha
my
Martin is
vice.
voting in favor of.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Judy is a member too, but I don't think she's on.
I don't see her.
Yeah. Anthony Reed, I don't see him.
Anyone else, Carla?
So I have Judy, Carla, me, John Isaac, who I think is on, Anthony Reed, Ms. Lago Martin, Ms. Denise Bond, and Ms. Sydney Blair. But I
No,
don't know if
that's an
she's.
old. That's an
Yeah.
old one, Carla. That's not.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm not sure this is the most recent list, but I know Anthony is still a member, Ms. Lago Martin is still a member, Denise Bond is still a member.
My vice chair is a member.
Oh, Queenie.
Yeah.
Yes, but I didn't see her on either.
Wait, do we have a
Oh, we
quorum?
don't have a
Because
quorum, we can't vote.
John Isaac doesn't look like he's on the call anymore. Did we
Because
have
he
a
heard all this before.
did we have a quorum for the previous vote on the gas
Yes,
station?
we did, yeah. John was on then.
Yeah, so for this one you don't, so how do you want to move, Carl?
We just, no vote taken because there was no quorum.
So we'll take it to the full board?
Well, yeah, then we could do that, yes. But
Okay.
do it under the environmental committee. Don't do it under mine.
No, Nate, are you on? We're gonna take this to our full board meeting coming up on June 22nd.
Okay.
Right.
Okay? We'll be in contact.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Nate. Go ahead, Carl.
No, that's it. If there's no further business before the committee, I recommend that we close this hearing at
Hold on a
8:12.
second. Carla, do you have a question or was that from before?
Oh, sorry, that was before. I forgot to unraise my hand.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing
Sorry, Carla,
further.
go ahead.
Okay, so I recommend that we take a motion to close the meeting at 8:13 p.m.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody, for
Aye.
coming tonight.
Good night,
Good night.
everyone.
Yeah,
Good night.
come in.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
night.
Good night, everyone.